Hello, my friends. I want to speak about a couple of these Bible verses that I received today. I've explained it many of times. What I'm walking appears on these verses, and it appears to either refine me or to guide me or to send me somewhere. And it's always what I'm walking currently to understand so that I understand it better. And I understand whether I'm going the right way or whether I need to pivot or do something else or something else is going to be taught to me. These Bible verses always apply to my life. They have for the past 8 years. So we see this is on Bible Gateway. It's of Romans 8:35 through 37. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger of sword? In other words, Paul is saying that even in trials, even in troubles, even in tribulations, nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. So no matter what your flesh goes through on this earth, it doesn't matter as far as your relationship with God. Let's look at the other verse that pops up. It's of Jonah 2:2, which of course I've been speaking about. He said, "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead I called for help, and you listened to my cry." Again, speaking of a troubles. And this is what I see happening in the church. And it really, within the scarlet beast, Mystery Babylon, which is the United States of America, if we're looking at this as being the times of the end and looking what Mystery Babylon does, you will see that there is no other people or nation that fulfill what Mystery Babylon does other than America. There's no other country that does it. Everything that is written that Mystery Babylon does is what America does. And you know only by their fruits what something is, which is why Jesus made the point to bring that home. There's no other nation, no other people, no other land, no other anything that fulfills Mystery Babylon and everything that it is and that it does other than us. So if you understand that America is Mystery Babylon, even though there's a lot of people that'll tell you it's this, it's that, all you have to do is say, look at what it is doing. Is Rome this? If Rome is destroyed in an hour, would America care? No, of course not. It's just people have been taught things by their traditions, or taught things apart from God by their own pride of their mind, so that they cannot see the most simplest of things. And it goes into why these troubles come and what this harlot church speaks of. Part of why this happens, I think the biggest part actually, is because of her doctrines that she has believed throughout the years. She believes in dispensationalism much of the time. She believes in Zionism. She believes that those who live in the nation we call political Israel today have been risen by God, put there in a place so that they may go into Jacob's troubles and so that the end times may play out. And she believes that those who call themselves Jews are actually Jews, despite the scriptures and everything that Jesus says contrary to that. They don't believe in Christ. If they don't believe in Christ, they don't have the Father. That means that God is not the one who is guiding and building them. But they believe that's what the case is. So they believe that they're going to go into Jacob's trouble. And this is where it gets dangerous for those who are apostate. Because all the teachers, they all line up and they all say, the bride of Christ, the church, is not going to enter into great tribulations, which I completely agree with them. The church will not see great tribulations because that is the wrath of the Lamb. It's the wrath of God. They are rescued apart from that wrath. But what they don't understand is that they're to expect troubles. And this is the trap of Mystery Babylon. And this is why Mystery Babylon falls in an hour. Is if troubles come to a people who are rich. Say a rich man is rich. He's got millions of dollars. Today, tomorrow he wakes up after living all of the years of his life wealthy, able to get anything that he wants. He points his finger and somebody brings it to him. He's got servants, he's got maids, he has everything he wants. He's been rich all the years in his life, and tomorrow suddenly he wakes up and he has nothing. What's going to happen to that man? Well, that man's going to feel like the whole world has been destroyed. He's going to feel like he has just entered into the great tribulations himself, despite he's still doing okay. He still has a roof over his head for the time being. He still has the food that he's already bought before. He's not living any different than anybody has ever lived from the history of mankind until him, even in that moment of his troubles. But because he's been so rich his whole life, when it's taken away from him, he feels as though that's the end of the world. Even though it's not. We've had people right now in the world living in troubles, day in and day out. Even the average middle-class person in Mystery Babylon lives in troubles. I know because I am one. And the troubles that we're living in right now are nothing compared to what has to come yet. Especially if this eclipse that is coming in April is the marking of the scarlet beast. What these teachers say, because of the doctrines that they've believed, is that we're going to escape all these troubles that are to come. They're not for us, they're for the Jews. And what that means is that God is going to purify many of them during those days of troubles, because he's going to effectively take away from the rich man everything that they have, everything that they've been blessed with. He's going to take it away from them. And when he takes that away from them, there's going to be a moment where they're going to think this is the end of the world, this is the greatest troubles ever, until they walk for a little bit and see this isn't the greatest troubles ever. I've lost all that I have, yes, but I still am alive. I still am here. I still have things around me. So though you lose your wealth, you still have your life. You still have the Lord. That's what is missing. And they call these days of trouble to come the Great Tribulations, thinking that they're going to escape it when they're not. They're heading into it specifically so that they can see who they are, and some of them may turn. That's what's coming for Mystery Babylon. Days of Jacob's troubles, where she will feel like she's lost it all, but in all reality she has done nothing but gained the Lord by the end of it. It is a short period of time between Babylon's fall, the troubles, and the rescue and the great tribulations to come, but it is going to come. And it's going to come real soon, especially if, like I said, that A of eclipses is marking the scarlet beast. And what does that mean for us? Well, I can tell you what it's going to mean for a lot of people. A lot of these teachers that you see online right now talking, we're going to escape the great tribulations. It's not going to affect us. We're going to be out of here. We're going to be with the Lord. Hallelujah. We're going to escape all of it. And you have all those thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who believe all of those teachers. When Jacob's troubles come, they, because they are rich now, are going to look at those days and they are going to say, but you told us, teacher, that we were not going to enter into these great tribulations. You lied to us. There is no rapture, and many of them will depart because of that. Because what they're not understanding is that they're not in the great tribulations then. They're just in troubles. It's called the double portion. If you look at Revelation 17, pour her a double portion of what she has given to everyone else. America, her double portion, Mystery Babylon, begins with taking away her wealth. That's just one cup. The first cup poured to her is just what she's done to everybody else in the world. And all of us go through that piece. That's troubles. And the Lord will keep his hand over who are his, even during those times of troubles, as we clearly see from these verses. No matter what happens in Mystery Babylon, those who believe in God will endure it. But those who will depart, they're not truly of us, even now as they say they are. Because when those times of troubles come, they will call it great tribulations, because they are the spoiled rich man who suddenly has everything taken from him and cannot accept it, cannot dress in red, cannot mourn and weep over what we have done to the Lord, cannot reflect in that moment and see that we have lost everything, but compared to everyone else who's ever lived on the earth, we're still doing just fine. There will be people that will go one of two directions during those troubles. Some of them will endure it, recognize what is happening, mourn, be wearing their sackcloth and ashes, and when the Lord comes, He will rescue them from what is to come after that. But the other part of that will completely go away and turn away from the faith, because they will call what is troubles great tribulations. They will lash out at those who taught that they would escape the great tribulations, and you will suddenly see thousands of these teachers running for the hills because they will not want to face the very same people that they have been telling no troubles will come their way, because they're confusing the great tribulations and the troubles, because we have grown up so rich we cannot even fathom the difference between one and the other. That will happen. You will have many fall away. The hirelings will scatter. They will abandon the sheep at that time, because they will not want to face the wrath of all of those people who are listening to them and believing them that God is with them. No harm is coming their way. No troubles are going to come their way. They're going to continue on doing exactly as they are right now, living in their comfortable, peaceful, relatively good lives up until the day suddenly Jesus appears in the air and rescues them out. When that will not happen, because America will get first what she's given to everybody else. A first helping. God Himself pours out a second helping. That's the one that you don't want to be around for, because that's the one which shows that you were never part of Him to begin with, and that the whole time you are living a lie amongst yourselves for your own personal benefit, more than likely, for most of those who are teaching these things. They're teaching them right now because it's an economy for them. They're making money off of it. They're receiving praise for it. They're receiving glory and honor, and they put up their gates and people come knock at their doors expecting to be able to come in and out for a fee. They're profiting off of the name of God. Those will be the ones that will run for the hills. They will abandon everybody that they've been telling no troubles will come their way, and they will be condemned for exactly what they have done now for the Lord, which is nothing. They've gained nothing for Him. They've given back with no interest. And those ones who will go and attack them and say, you said great tribulations were not going to come to us, and they're here. They say that because they themselves believed a lie and followed it. They themselves cannot understand what the Lord is doing during those days, that it's for their better, their purification, that they go through those troubles, because it's better for someone to lose a hand, or to lose an eye, to gouge one's eyes out, than to spend an eternity in hell. But they don't understand the works that the Lord is doing, because they don't believe in Him to begin with. So they won't recognize the difference between the troubles that come and the great tribulations that are yet to come. They'll believe they're already in the great tribulations. And this is what I see happening. And it's very important with these eclipses lining up. I see all kind of different things out there. People saying how silly it is to be looking at shadows on the ground, for instance. But then the next thing that they're talking about is the stars in the sky and how we should follow those patterns. Hypocrites. People don't understand even what they're doing 1 second to the next. If you're telling me not to look at shadows on the ground that happen all the time, which eclipses do happen all the time, not in the exact patterns that we're seeing, but of course they're a frequent natural event. They're put in place for times and for seasons and for signs. We understand that. They happen. But don't tell me not to look at the shadows on the ground whenever you're telling me to look up at the constellations in the sky that also do the same repeating pattern over and over again. They make no sense even 1 second to the next, because they're all lost in their own pride and their own believing that they're correct and right. And I stand before you today saying, I don't know. But what I do know that the church was supposed to be was each one who was given something stand up and say it, somebody interpret it, everybody had equal footing to speak, and we would help each other figure things out. As the toe helps me to walk, the tongue helps me to speak, and both operate in my body for my benefit. If I lose one or the other, I've lost something in my body. Something else will have to compensate for it. And that's like what the church has become. Rather than people standing on equal footing, saying what they're experiencing and seeing so that we help each other to see better in days of dimness, instead, one person puts up a gate, says, you can come on in if you pay me a fee, and then I will teach all of you what I've seen, and you will give me nothing. It's become a den of thieves, a house of harlots, where the people who truly believe are led astray that the people who are teaching them actually believe, when the people who are teaching actually don't believe, even though those people listening may actually believe. It's upside down with how we operate. And that's what Jacob's trouble comes to relieve. It comes to separate those from each other, those who really believe and those who really don't, so that we may know without a doubt, this one is my brother, that one is my sister, this one is my friend, and that one is my enemy. It will be the same as Jesus dipping the bread to identify Judas. In the days when troubles come, we will know each other apart with certainty, just as Jesus dipped the bread. And they knew Judas. And that's the days that are coming ahead. And it's coming ahead really soon, really quickly. If this eclipse is the scarlet A, marking the scarlet beast, it will also identify the harlots within her. And many people, whenever these things of persecution, hardship, famine, nakedness, danger, sword, when these things actually come into the American soil for the first time ever from a foreign nation. I know we've had, 9/11, I know we have Pearl Harbor, but we've never had a real war fought on this big, large landmass that we call the North American continent. Never had a widespread war here, like what happened in Europe, like what happened in Afghanistan and Africa. We've never had that here, and that is coming here. And people will call that mistakenly the Great Tribulations, because they've been taught by hirelings to believe that they will experience nothing of hardship in this world, despite they live in the beast, which is just not true. We all experience hardship and sorrows. Everyday life can be filled with hardships and sorrows. That's what this time period is for right now, to prepare us for the days of trouble that are to come, so that when the days of trouble come, we trust and believe in the Lord, just as the scriptures say, that even though 10,000 to the left of us fall down, 10,000 to the right of us fall down, we stand because the Lord is with us. That's what these days of sorrows are for, to prepare for the days of trouble, so that when they come, you're not overcome by them. You recognize this isn't the wrath of God. This is not the great tribulations. This is the troubles that sorrows made us aware of. But what happens whenever people aren't expecting troubles? What happens when people aren't experiencing sorrows? They're eating and drinking and marrying and giving into marriage. They're happy and drunk and boasting about the return of the Lord and how they're going to escape all their problems. What happens when troubles comes those ones' way, where they weren't walking in sorrows to prepare for it? Well, then he comes to overtake them like a thief. They don't recognize what's happening around them, and they panic. And those days, I believe, are the days that are upon us or are coming upon us. Days of trouble, where we will know Judas from Paul, Judas from Peter. We will know Ananias and Sapphira. We will know those amongst us, just as the apostles were able to know those amongst them. And I tell you that when these days of troubles begin, fear not, for you have faith in the Lord. If anybody is listening to things that I'm saying, especially because I speak completely different than all these other ones out there for the most part, there are some that understand these things that I say, but most do not. Most are all upon the same cult that we can clearly see as a cult. If you listen to me this far in the video, you really recognize that if these days come, like I'm speaking of, and we enter into these troubles, then believe also what I've said about those troubles, and do not fear them, because they are not put here to test you. They're put here to show all of them. And it's not going to be easy for any of us, just as it isn't easy now for any of us who live in sorrows. But we're prepared for it. Just like a battle-hardened veteran being put on a front line. They know what to expect and they know what's coming. They're not overtaken by being thrown into combat. And you have all these people talking about the spiritual warfare that we go through on a daily basis. They have no idea what spiritual warfare is. They have no idea what it means. They believe in the fairy tale of spiritual warfare, not actual spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare is to protect you and to provide you a way out and to guide you and arm you so that in the days of trouble, when it comes, you know how to combat it. But most of the people that say they're going through spiritual warfare, they're not. They've made it up in their minds. And that's something we also have to understand about this people, is this people makes up their own fantasies. They live by them. They tell each other about them so that they actually believe that it's happening to them when they've never actually experienced it. It's the most amazing thing. It's just like, it's a mind control. It's a form of Satan's witchcraft almost, is what it seems like. It's like if you tell somebody a lie enough times and repeat it, they'll believe it. That's what most of this people does. One person speaks to the next a lie, the other person then spreads that lie, and then all of a sudden you have 50,000 people believing the same lie that's never actually happened. That's what this people does in this generation, and that's why they go unprepared. So my friends, the days ahead of us to come, we don't know exactly what they're going to bring. But I do know that trouble is coming the way of Mystery Babylon. And I do know that she ultimately will not survive it. And that we must be taken from Mystery Babylon in order to endure the latter part of that troubles, which is no longer troubles at that time, but great tribulations. And that is why the ones who are faithful to God will not be here for those times, as Jesus says himself in Revelation 18, come out of her, my people. We will not be in Mystery Babylon, those of us who live in Mystery Babylon during those days. Nor will we be anywhere in the world, for the angels will gather the elect from the four corners, meaning all of us go at that time. We're taken for a little while in order to inherit the earth after Jesus has transformed it, terraformed it essentially into being heaven and earth again, one and the same, one where we dwell with God, not apart from God. We're there both bodily and spiritually with the Lord. The days that we yearn for. But there are still lost sheep amongst Israel that have not found their way to him yet. And that is who will benefit from these days to come. So remember that the Lord is not taking his anger out on you if you believe when these troubles happen. But he is using you because you are willing to be used in order to go into battle to bring those who are lost back to him. We are nothing but a vessel of the Lord. And we earn our pay by being willing to be used. So that's what I see happening over these next period of whatever it is. Days, months, years perhaps, I'm not sure. But if this eclipse is marking the scarlet beast, it really makes me believe that we're heading right for those troubles that most people believe they're not going to be going into, because they've confused troubles with tribulations, because they're expecting a people apart from God Israel, those who call themselves Jews, they're expecting those ones to be the ones to go into troubles, when it's actually them who are headed into the troubles. The teachers have done this generation a very horrible disservice of not preparing the flock for what they should actually expect. It's like if I were to tell you that we're going to go on a, I don't know, like an airsoft war game, and we're going to be shooting Nerf guns at each other, and you arrive there with a Nerf gun and you're excited to play, and you can get out in the field and there's live grenades and there's somebody with, AK-47s and machine guns shooting holes through everything, and you're sitting there with your Nerf gun. Well, you're going to be pretty terrified as soon as you enter that field, and you're probably going to just fall down on the ground and start crying because you weren't prepared for that kind of a war. You were prepared for a fun Nerf war. And there's people throwing real armaments at you when you arrive in there. You're not prepared for it, and that's what the fallen apostate church has done to those who actually do believe with the sheep. They've not prepared them to what to be prepared for. As if I have prepared those sheep, if I say, we're going into combat, you've been trained for this, if I've been training you now, you're going to wear your flak vest, you're going to have grenades at your side, you're going to be carrying your machine gun in your arms. When you get in through that gate, you're going to drop to the ground, you're going to turn right, get behind the structure, and you're going to start firing on the enemy. Is that person, when they're dropped down, they know what they're getting into, so that when they're dropped in there and it comes, their training takes over. That's what the period of sorrows is for. It's a training. And this apostate church has let this generation down because they haven't trained them for anything that is about to come. God bless.